second week in a row, the punters at Sydney have got it spot on in the last. Valrosso the week before was, what, $5 into 250 or thereabouts, maybe not that tight, 280. And this time it was Pamplone, $8 into 550, and as one good judge said on the weekend, this race was all over after 100 metres. Pamplone outside the leader, who was very disappointing. Satin Shoes was good, nothing made ground, and really that was the end of the penny section.
Yeah, I think once the scratching of Rain Affair came out of this race, it changed betting dramatically, because a lot of the speed then had come out of the race, because a lot of horses probably would have been trying to chase Rain Affair, but Pamplone, good ride by Hugh Bowman, rolled forward, but Timmy Martin too good, no trials. And I was speaking to him in the mounting yard before the race. He said, "Oh, I think the horse looks a little bit fat, I thought, beautiful, I'm going to go double my bet here."
Yes, but no, it's a good point you make, because the groundswell of support for Emotional Circus, early fixed odds, was with Rain Affair in the race. It came out the pace, but by this stage, Brent, in the day, they knew where to go, the riders. Yeah, if you're lobbed into the right spot of those lanes, you're not going to come from the back and win.
And I think a lot of it has to do with the tempo more than sort of lanes. I think it was sort of that riders were steering clear of the fence, but I thought sort of, you know, once you had 2 or 3 horses off, it was quite fair across the board out wide. It was just that the horses were going to the front, dictating, and then sprinting away.
Yeah.
Okay, Bobby from Springwood has written, "Don't you love a good old-fashioned plunge?" Coming off in the last race of the day.
Yes, we do.
Has any of the panel got a classic get-out story? I do.
Yes, I got a beauty.
But mine goes, it was a Melbourne Cup Derby Day a few years ago. There was a horse called Mission. Brett Preble had ridden pretty much everything on the day, and it might have even been Oakstake.
I remember a Mission.
Yeah. Anyway, so
Cliff Brown.
No, Cliff Brown. A mate of mine snips me for 400, has it at 9 to 4 on a Mission, then butters up on something in Brisbane, and then in the end finishes up with 3 double splits playing blackjack at the Crown, with all of it on the table, and pulls 21, 20 and 21 on the dealer bust. Yeah.
Good story.
But I hope you got a little bit of interest on the 400.
13 to 4 into 9 to 4 that day, so that was a good get-out.
That's all right. No, I like to think that there is never a get-out stakes. There's always race the next day or the following week. So try to get that mentality. There's never a get-out stakes.
In.
Yeah. Well, just quickly, another Wirram story, but this was a wonderful day because I think it was 2010 Derby Day. The way Flemington was playing, I remember a guy came up to me and he said, "Oh, mate, I've just lost a ton today. What am I going to do?" And I said, "Well, at the risk of sounding like a crack record, this track's playing beautifully for Wirram in the last. It was about $12. So in, there it is again." And he had everything he could muster on it, and I'm still waiting for a bourbon and cake.
Okay. There was a big tip floating around Kalgoorlie at about 11 o'clock on Saturday night for Lopov.
Lopov wins the Cal Cup, and I was battling by this stage. There was a lot of winners around.
That's almost as bad as Quinny at Val.
But he shouted himself a free haircut out of the winnings.
No, the haircut was in place
and the new suit.
Oh, it's a new suit.
Was it a new suit or just the shape up from last week? Tony Soprano.
No, new suit. But go on, tell him you lop off. You got a lop off.
No, I haven't got a lop off.
It's a very ordinary gag.
Jimmy showed him a thing or two in the steward's room. He showed him a thing or two on this horse, Steps in Time. Good training performance. The horse was pretty average the first 2. Thanks very much, Neil and John O'Shea. Bounces back at succulent 750 odds, but Torio's Quest was off the map early in the week, then blew like a gale after doing a shoe and raced accordingly. Yeah,
well, he's got a history of feet problems, Torio's Quest, and you can just see him there. He's not exactly stretching out as you probably would have liked, but he had the big boom on him because he trialled Flashy really nicely going into this race twice. And there was a big go sort of
beat all too hard in a trial.
Yeah, well,
she's
all
good
too
trial
hard, good. But the key with Steps in Time was with the ride for Jimmy Cassidy. He just dominated the race.
He did.
Bowled along in front. She's fit enough now. She's had the 2 runs.
Knew where to
go.
It was
good. Said Com back on the inside. He's just poking on nicely.
Is he going well enough to win an Epsom, do you think?
He gets down in the weights.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be writing him off.
He hit the Don't lead with him.
Don't be writing him off. You look at his run prior to his second behind Mosheen in the, I think it was at Rose Hill. He got beat by Laserhawk, which at the time didn't look the best form, but his run was very good. I'm not writing him off.
Let's have a look at this race again, just very quickly. The last 200 metres, there's a horse called Dare to Dream in this race, which was
what a go.
Bart Cummings. Now, this was a go. Tell me what happened here. This was $21 into 6s. That's it on the inside running last, I think. Is that it? Or in the,
that's back
the white cap?
The red and black colours there, back with the white cap.
Yeah.
But it was a big push. I think they bet maybe 30 to 1 pre-post, and then on course. Like, this is a big betting, a decent betting race. Like, this is qualified for the Epsom, and it was $21 into 650 official fluctuations. I went and spoke to James Cummings, the Bart Cummings stable foreman, after the race and said, was there any confidence pre-race? He said, I can tell you the money wasn't stable related.
We were 26-9 on Friday.
Well, the funniest bloke in racing was on Racing Review yesterday, and he said this about Dare to Dream.
$20 to sevens. I got to say that I wouldn't have been surprised if it laid down and gave birth there before the race. I'd never seen a fatter horse.
Just what the punters want to hear.
No, then
this
they
was
cut
on
to,
Sunday.
Then they cut to a two-shot with Richie and him in it, which I thought was a bit poetic, but I'll blame the director on that one. Never seen a fatter horse. I thought she was going to give birth.
Yeah, well, obviously the money had come from a ratings-based assessment, or people who are doing form off its performances in England. They obviously didn't see how it had paraded there in the betting room, which is another part of punting. You've got to see how these horses turn up, because you wouldn't back Usain Bolt to win the 100 metres if he turned up with a nice little beer gun.
$1.90 Proceer, $6 It's a Done Deal Spring Champion Stakes. Where's your hand at the moment?
I'd be on It's a Done Deal.
Yeah, I Proceer might just be too good by the time the Spring Champion 2000.
Well, this is It's a Done Deal.
The gap's too big for me in the market.
It's a massive gap.
$1.80 to $6.50 or something.
The only thing that you might get carried away with was they did go fairly quick, and it was one of those races where you could see them collapse in the last 100, and the Stormers came down the outside.
They certainly could, but It's a Done Deal had an outboard motor there in the last 200 metres. It just kicked into gear and went whoosh, and I can't see why an extra 200 metres is really going to it's going to be beneficial to this horse.
Yep.
Prazier's only run over a mile.
Yep.
I know he was good there at Newcastle, but look for Honorius back on the inside. David Payne seems to think he's got enough up his sleeve with that horse second up to
well, this was
beat it.
Last week, Prassier.
Spring Stakes.
This is something. Good judges are saying this was a $1.12 pop on Wednesday, and they tossed out $1.45 at one stage. This was a
over 130.
I think he's obviously very, very smart horse, but Mount Nebo there in the black with the
That's
grey cap.
That's 100 to 1 pop on the inside as well.
It got beat at Gosford or Wyong the week before. Like, I know he's put a big space on them, but I want to see him up against some genuine opposition. I know he put a gap on Norzita, but she's still a filly taking on the boys. I think he's pricing the Cox Plate. I think some people are betting $15. Absolutely ridiculous. He's not even going to go there. Why are they betting that?
Why wouldn't you go there? If you had a 3-year-old in this day and age...
The stable's got Piero in the race. There's no way he's going to go to a Cox Plate.
If I'm owning Proceer, I'm saying to go, I don't give a fuck.
He's not a Cox Plate horse anyway. He's won 3 starts.
Why is he a Cox Plate horse?
He's come from a maiden at Hawkesbury.
So you think one of that his 5th start?
Yeah, but he was taking on decent sort of races. I know he won a Group 3 Spring Stakes.
He won the Gloaming the same time.
Go to the Spring Champion, win that, and then pull up stumps and go for a good race in the autumn.
But isn't that what So You Think did after won the Gloaming? Where did it go?
He went to the Caulfield Guineas.
Yeah.
He went to the Caulfield Guineas. If he was in these decent sort of big 3-year-old races, yes, but he's won a Spring Stakes against Mount Nebo and Strength from Paddock.
Why would you put Proceer into the Caulfield Guineas then?
Well, you won't go to the Caulfield Guineas. You go to the Spring Champion. That's his race.
Because Doug Gay wants to.
Well, she's got Piero. It's hard not to.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, off the forum, let's have a look at what the punters are all saying. Why is everyone knocking? It's a done deal. 4 starts, 4 wins. He wins the Gloaming by even further if he runs straight. Yeah, what about the blinkers? Any one-eyed winkers there?
I'm not sure what they do. I don't think they need to really tinker with him too much. He hits the line pretty good.
That continues on. I hope you agree. I hope you're right, because the $7 on offer seems more attractive than the $1.75 for Proceed.
Jose Mourinho.
He's taking a bit of time out from Real Madrid to tune in. Good to see we're getting far and wide here.
Done deal was just a horse. The pace of the race was as fast as Black Caviar at full bolt. Well, of course he was going to win that. He won't be winning any big races in Melbourne.
Well, the Spring Champion Stakes will just be a tactical tactically how the races run.
Think so.
Because Prassier can explode.
Yeah.
As we've seen, might get away with it, but if they can get the gloves off at the half mile, then It's a Done Deal might come over the top.
Okay, we spoke about a couple of these big goes in Sydney. Dare to Dream, 21's into 650. Pamplone got the cash.
That was late, yeah.
Relaxed and
happy. The 2 down the bottom there, Chris Waller's 4 into 270 and High on Believing 4 into 280. Well, Relaxed and Happy, Hugh Bowman told stewards after the race that the horse just felt like there was nothing there at the 600 underneath him, and he'd be very surprised if there wasn't something wrong with the horse. High on Believing, I just think didn't back up. But it didn't back up. But they were 2 serious good plungers in decent betting races. So The Chris Wallace supporters didn't get off to a good start of the day.
Okay, these are on course flux, so there's a bit of action earlier in the week on a couple of these ones, so just be aware. Destruction, 420 out the weights.
Well, it was very coltish in the mounting yard. It was squealing and wanted to jack up. A lot of
once the form boys see that, they just got other things on its mind.
Yeah, no, he looks as though he certainly does have other things on his mind.
Jacquinot Bay was 245 out to 320, but a bit of money earlier in the week.
Yes, it was the interesting one. Lamasery 260 to 350 because there was serious money there for Moraine. I think they bet about $9 into $6.50 or $6 late in the piece, and looked to control the race from the front, and just Lamasery was able to pinch a break on it, and he's got that turn of foot where Moraine just kept grinding and grinding.
Came again. Yeah.
Thank God for Lamasery or Lamasery. Or I
don't care. It'll be very hard to beat in the Metrop, going from the 59 down to the 54.
Make sure you book for that too. It's the upcoming October 6 meeting at Royal Randwick. You'll need to book tickets, as you should do each and every time that there's a meeting on at Randwick. And at Rosehill Gardens this weekend, it's the Iconic Fashion Day. First 3,000 women on course will receive a gift bag from the Iconic, worth $75. Grab one of those, Neil, for the bride. $15,000 in the Fashion Stakes. Of course, the Go Racing for Real, $7,500 up for grabs. Grab a Super Saver ticket from Ticketek. $30 gives you $70 of value, including drink, food, betting vouchers, you name it. It's all there. Theraces.com.au. Make sure you're part of the racing in Sydney and Melbourne this spring.